think we're good. All right.
Great.
So welcome everyone. Um, we can just jump right in. You already know what you're doing. So
All right. Yes,
um,
this is round two.
yes, so we have Medtronic back with us today. So they're going to explain about cardiac ablation solutions, so that particular unit, and then also an internship opportunity with that. So with that, Alexis, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. First of all, we are so glad to be here. We appreciate all of you attending this informational session. Thank you, Dr. Porter, for organizing this call today. We're grateful to partner with UT Dallas for our second round of finding an amazing associate clinical experience intern for Medtronic, cardiac ablation solutions. And it will be in the Dallas area. Here's a quick look at what we'll discuss today. Taylor, next slide. So first of all, we'll talk about our mission, which is a very important part of Medtronic. We'll also go over the ACE Summer Associate Program, which is called Associate Clinical Experience. That's what that ACE stands for as an acronym. We'll also talk about the Cardiac Ablation Solutions product portfolio, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions and answers. Next slide, Taylor. So a little bit about me. My name is Alexis Paycheck. I am the Cardiac Ablation Solutions Gulf Coast Regional Manager. We currently have 10 regions with CAS, and the Gulf Coast region is made of 4 states. We have approximately 22 people or so in the sales and clinical roles. I was a nurse, you can see, as I started my career and started my industry career 26 years ago. I know I only look 29, but I started quite young through this process, and then just hit 7 years with Medtronic this past fall. Um, I will let Taylor, who's joining today, introduce herself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Hi, I'm Taylor Knowles, and I am the Regional Clinical Specialist Manager for the Carolinas. I have been with Medtronic about 2 years now. I've been in the industry about 7. I started off in the industry through ATI, which is a postgraduate program for cardiac device sales, and made my way into the industry from there. So started off from college going directly there. So right out of the gates, just like Alexis as well. This program is near and dear to my heart because I was actually with training and education last year, and I helped kind of develop and design the program. And so it was really fun to see the 8 interns kind of progress through that for the first cohort and see where they're at now. You'll get to hear from one of them yourselves, and you can ask Juliana any questions. You can ask me any questions, especially based on, the structure of the program. But now I'm on a different side of things as the clinical specialist manager. So we are actually recruiting for my region from NC State and Raleigh. And so we held our informational session last night, and I'm really happy to be here and helping Alexis and you guys recruit for another cohort. So with that, I'm going to turn it to Juliana to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Juliana Hernandez, and I am a senior in biomedical engineering here at the University of Texas at Dallas. And I'm also the ACE intern for the Dallas region. I've been with Medtronic since May, and it's been a really great experience learning about what it is to be a clinical specialist, what exactly they do in their day-to-day, and learning so much about the heart. I've learned so much about the heart this entire time, and just learning different ways to treat atrial fibrillation, and not even just that, we've learned about all the arrhythmias in the heart. So it's really interesting, and I really am glad about this experience, and I really encourage you all to apply to it.
Thank you, Juliana. Juliana came to us. She was selected as that first CAS intern as an incoming senior. She has been such a delight to the team and the program. And she'll be only on for about another 25 minutes. Juliana, you have a class, but thank you for introducing yourself. And there's a little bit of information about Juliana near the end of this presentation, so we hope all of y'all will stay on. In the event that you have any questions, definitely try to find Juliana on campus, or contact Dr. Porter if you don't know her already, to see how you can connect with her. All right, Taylor, next slide. I can't see what you're doing, so if I'm already on it, let me know. I'll start with who we are. This is about Medtronic. And first of all, our mission is a big part of this. I think, Taylor, that's a, if I remember right, that is a slide, or a video. Is that correct? Or is it going to play? Can you
So
tell?
is it just an animation? Hold on. This one, is it a video?
It says our mission. I thought it had a video in it.
It just jumps right into the 6 powerful words of our mission.
Okay, perfect. Well, we'll go to the next slide with where it says alleviate pain, restore health, and extend life.
Is
Slide
mine
8.
delayed? I have it on up right now. You see it?
Okay, no, I can't because I'm on another page. So
Okay.
thank you for
That's where we're at.
clarifying. So it all begins with Medtronic's mission, which compels us to alleviate pain, restore health, and extend life. This was, our enduring North Star that not only inspires all of us, but guides us. It defines us who we are, and it continues with our new symbol. Here you can see on the right. It's a modern interpretation of an image steeped in Medtronic history. It used to be called the Running Man. It shows a figure striding ahead, signaling momentum toward restored health. It conveys the ultimate benefit of our therapies and how we deliver those therapies to patients, and basically a chance to step toward full life. Next slide, Taylor. As you can see, no matter how much we have grown, our work is always grounded in our mission. It's the foundation of, everything we do throughout the Medtronic organization. Our mission was developed in 1960, and it has 6 tenets, covering a variety of important areas. But the first and most recognizable in our tenet that says we aim to contribute to human welfare by application of biomedical engineering in the research, design, manufacture, and sale of instruments or appliances. Well, this basically just means that we apply those biomedical engineering to alleviate pain, restore health, and then extend life. Not a word of the mission has changed since it was written. More than a half a century later, the mission continues to serve as our ethical framework, and it basically inspires every goal of our employees around the world. Next slide. Our foundation of innovation to meet the world's greatest healthcare challenges, which continue to get deeper as time goes on, we need innovation as that foundation. We need the practical, determined, problem-solving mindset of the organization and of engineers. And that's combined with extraordinary expectations, actions, and results. That's our promise to not only employees or interns like yourself, potential interns, but to our patients and the customers around the globe. Next slide. So we wanted to tell you a little more about how we started. The Medtronic story began simply in a garage in Minnesota in the late 1940s. Next slide. Just a few years later, our founder, Earl Bakken, created the first wearable battery-operated pacemaker. You can see him right there holding it. This is a picture of him, and he's holding that first pacemaker that was actually wearable, if you can imagine that, and only paced one chamber of the heart. Compare it to the pacemaker on his right hand. It's very small. That is to date the smallest implantable pacemaker that also paces one chamber of the heart. So after this many years, you can see the changes that have been made and the technology advancements right there. Next slide. So we continue to strive toward new, even better healthcare technology, knowing that it can truly change the world and patients' quality of life. Our purpose has not changed through many years of this innovation and technology. And that started from the first powered pacemaker into so many other aspects of our technology through the years. Next slide. So the innovation of our product inspires us to be truly extraordinary things and do those things every single day. It's where we all want to be. We're reminded of that daily from the company. We really know where our feet are planted and where we want to go as we work for this company. Next slide. So I want to take a moment to kind of walk you through some of the biggest milestones of our history and innovation. As discussed on the last slide, it all started in Earl's garage in 1949 in Minnesota. On Halloween night, 1957, there was a power outage at a hospital in Minnesota, and a young patient died because the pacemaker relied on wall current for power. As a result, Earl was asked to fix the problem, and he delivered the first battery-powered pacemaker right then. Next slide. So by 1960, Earl developed the first fully implantable pacemaker, but they also veered toward bankruptcy at that time. Thankfully, he borrowed money that kept Medtronic going, but the bankruptcy near miss drove Bakken to develop the Medtronic mission. The mission helped the young company to stay focused on areas, but also where it could truly help patients. We introduced the Medtronic Hall mechanical heart valve in 1977. The tilting disc heart valve design was a significant development and was the choice of physicians globally for nearly a quarter of a century. Next slide. So in 1979, the Medtronic Foundation was established. This foundation partners to improve health for underserved populations and as well supports communities where Medtronic employees live and give. We strive to do more than be just a charitable entity, but rather an impact organization where we measure our success in terms of the amount of impact that we make. So we're all pushed to not only give, but give ourselves along the way. As you see in 1983, building on the science of using electrical stimulation to pace the heart, Medtronic collaborated with French doctors to pioneer the world's first deep brain stimulator to treat movement disorders. And by 1999, Medtronic made headlines by acquiring a leader sophomore Danek group to augment its growing spine and biologics industry. So among their assets was a fledgling but not promising project to develop a bone graft product for fusing the spine with a morphogenic protein. Next slide. In 2001, Medtronic brought the diabetes market leader MiniMed. Once it bought that company, a team of biomedical engineers had developed a continuous glucose monitor. I probably would assume some of you may know people with that continuous glucose monitor options for those diabetes patients. This was a key component of a closed loop diabetes management system. In doing so, it took a major step toward enabling people around the world to better manage diabetes. Just 1 year later, in 2002, Medtronic introduced the industry's first remote monitoring system. It was designed to securely transfer data from the select patient devices to authorized doctors via the internet. This allowed patients to connect at home through the internet. And if you think about that, 20 years ago, Medtronic was innovating and pushing for things like this. By 2015, jumping a few years ahead, but Medtronic completed an acquisition of a company, an Irish meditech firm, Covidien, and it was reported to be a multi-billion-dollar company, 42.9 in cash and stock. At the time, Covidien ranked as the 8th largest device company, and it brought together extensive capabilities for both companies, which strengthened Medtronic's commitment to solve some great challenges in healthcare. It enabled us also to treat people in more places and than ever before across the globe. Next slide. In 2016, the Micra pacemaker, this was actually the pacemaker that Earl was holding in that picture in his right hand. The world's smallest pacemaker was a decade-long effort called deep miniaturization. Unlike most pacemakers that had been placed in patients' chest with leads running to the heart, the Micra was unlike anything else. It was implanted directly into the chamber of the heart, but also in 2016, our hybrid closed loop system became available as the first FDA approved device to automatically provide background insulin dosing per day for people living with type 1. So many things were happening on the cardiac front and the diabetes front. In 2019, the Mazer, it was a stealth system was launched. The system helped surgical software with robotics guidance. This was a huge leap in the navigation space for minimally invasive surgeries for patients. And then we all remember in 2020, COVID-19 swept the globe, and we looked to the Medtronic mission for guidance. So in the first few months, Medtronic mobilized to help the heroes on the front line by increasing ventilator production and publicly sharing design specs. This allowed for portable, kind of compact ventilators that allowed to benefit people all over the globe as those needs were coming up very fast. What isn't on the slide as it deserves mention is Earl passed away in 2018, but he left a wonderful legacy. Next slide. So in 2020, also a result of the pandemic, we created virtual care and telehealth tools for healthcare providers. That became the only way for patients to be seen, and it accelerated the development of remote device management, allowing healthcare workers to monitor patients from a distance, which allowed many patients to be seen and cared for since they couldn't come in. Then in 2021, in June, Medtronic announced the first patient procedure with a new soft tissue robotic assisted surgery system. The groundbreaking technology in so many ways was expanding high-tech capabilities throughout the world, and also machine learning and artificial intelligence. It was a key aspect to allowing things to develop much faster and have things more available for patients and learn more quickly. Next slide. So as you can see, Medtronic has an extensive global presence with over 150 countries, 4 regions of service, 19 distribution sites, and 79 manufacturing sites. We are all over the globe, making impact on Europe, Middle East, and Africa, the US, and it's important to Medtronic to be providing as much as we can to as many places as we can. So are there any questions after seeing the slide? Anybody want to chime in?
Don't see any hands or anyone typing in the chat.
Okay, thank you for looking. Okay, so because, next slide, Taylor, if you're not already there, since I can't see. Because this is what matters most, transforming the lives of patients. Last year, our technology improved the lives of over 70 million people around the world. That's 2 people every second of every hour of every day. And Medtronic aims to even improve that number per second in the future. Next slide. So our many technologies will improve the lives of 85 million people who will live annually by FY25. So you can see that our acceleration access, there's a huge goal there. We want to advance inclusion, diversity, and equity. And we also want to protect our planet. So, that's an important part of as much as we're bringing into the world, we want to make sure that if we can get to 100% carbon neutral in our operations by FY30, it's an extensive goal. Next slide. So when we deliver our promise, people notice. And Medtronic has been recognized by Catalyst as one of the top corporations. We drive global change. We build effective workplaces that work for women. And we also were recognized for, and Fortune named Medtronic as in 2021 as the most admired companies. Diversity Inc. is another corporate America diversity assessment tool. And we jumped to 11 on this last year's list. It's the highest ever ranking for us on this list. And then most recently, we were awarded by Glassdoor and back in 2022. This award is based on employee feedback, which is, a great example of an outstanding culture that Medtronic provides to its employees. There's just a few organizations that we admire most who have acknowledged our commitment to improving basically the world. Next slide, Taylor. Our people are a big part of it. So I'm fortunate enough to work with some of the brightest minds and the most hardworking people at the nexus of two exciting industries, healthcare and then in technology. It's an incredible combination. Next slide. So the expertise that spans the entire human body allows us to basically borrow and learn from within the organization. So across portfolios and products, we learn from each area of our portfolio. Most everybody knows us as the pacemaker company, but honestly, there really isn't any part of the body that we haven't been a part of, and we haven't tried to be better and treat, from cardiovascular to medical. And surgical products, neuroscience, and diabetes. Next slide. Oh, that one's a little one that slid in. Next slide, Taylor, to cardiovascular. So we're gonna next go over kind of some of our life transforming medical devices. The cardiovascular portfolio brings our cardiac and vascular businesses together. It's a full breadth of technologies, products, and services and solutions that are basically accessible to customers and patients across the globe. We'll first go with questions, which is the next slide, Taylor. And then we can see if anybody has any questions to this point and kind of move forward through the ACE associate information. Any hands raised or typing in the chat?
Any questions out there? You all want to raise your hands or you can start typing. Hopefully I should see it.
And as Juliana, I know you have to go in a minute. Is there anything you want to chime in or say before you have to leave for class? And next slide, I guess, for the ACE summer program.
Since I have to go in a bit, I do want to say that this ACE trip is really, it was a really amazing experience. I was able to follow with the clinicals of the team, and every day was different. It wasn't necessarily, well, Alexis and Taylor would go on a little bit more onto this, but it isn't a 9 to 5. Every day is very different. Every week is very different. So you experience a lot of things, and you got to travel a lot around the Dallas area. And you go to a lot of different hospitals, meet a lot of different electrophysiologists and hospital staff. So you meet a lot of people, you get to network a lot, and you just experience so many different things. You learn about the sterile field, you get to wear scrubs. So there's just so many things that is just really fun about this internship, and I really encourage everyone to apply to it, and just learn more about what a clinical specialist is, see how the biomedical engineering applies in the actual aspect of treating patients, and see how these products actually are being used in real life. And if anyone has any questions, I'll put my email in the chat in a bit once I leave. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to email me. I'll gladly answer, help you with anything that I can, and I'll put my email in the chat in a bit.
Thank you, Juliana. I know that one of the things that you were most excited about, I remember, was wearing scrubs. It's funny, she was so glad to be in the field and in the hospitals and fully engaged. So I'm glad that you've been part of it. Thank you for being here, Juliana. So I'm going to go over the ACE summer program first, and then I'm going to hand it over to Taylor for our portfolio information. There'll be just a few slides. We'll just discuss why we're all here. The ACE internship program, the ACE stands for Associate Clinical Experience. Next slide. The ACE program basically combines a new level of experience, the associate meaning kind of ground level, in the clinical side of our business. So we combine the ACE with the clinical, and then we add experience along the way. Next slide. So essentially, who we hire is you. It's students with the latest skills and viewpoints. So this helps actually Medtronic on the bleeding edge of technology and solutions, because we offer you the tools and experience and mentors to help you start your career. It's a field-based program, and it provides interns basically with a real-world experience around the delivery of medical technology to clinics and patients. It allows us to involve someone that has never seen this before and integrate them into what we're doing to not only learn the process, but become very experienced in it along the way. Juliana went from not knowing anything with her coursework to fully being involved in running our basically, I mean, the stuff that runs our systems in the lab. It's called electrophysiology lab, and she went from being hands off to hands on very quickly. It was kind of fun to watch. Next slide. So as far as what this internship is not, we know that the one thing it's not a 9 to 5. So there's really no set schedule. For the summer part of the program, we do allow a certain number of hours per week. And the ACE intern is basically just plugs in what they have on the course work as far as coursework, but they also plug it into field-based work and being involved as well with their mentor or just people that they're in contact with that day. It's not a research and product development position. If you are interested in that and that's where you want to go with your career, that is great, but that is not what this internship is. It is not in a lab setting for research setting. We do go into a lab, but it's into a hospital electrophysiology lab where the procedures are actually performed. It's not for a person going for a graduate or a medical school degree. If that's where you want to shoot for the stars, by all means do so, but this would not be for you. And it's not for someone without reliable transportation. Every now and then, you know, some of these younger adults go to school, you kind of rely on other means of transportation. So we do need independent transportation as an option. It's not for a non-US citizen. We needed to point that out because at this time, due to just not even COVID restrictions, that kind of started it. There are work visas that have not been easy to obtain. So as a result, we're not able to accommodate someone that's not on a visa. And then it's not for someone that can't stand blood because you will see it, you will be around it, and you know, not that you have to have a strong stomach because normally you can get used to it, but for those that are quite squeamish, this might not be for you.
Alexis,
Next slide. Yes.
can I jump in there?
Sure, I'd
Can I
love you
make a
to.
comment about the transportation? I just want to make a comment here that you do get reimbursed for your mileage as an
That's a good
intern,
comment.
and where you're driving to, but we do not provide you a car. So you will be reimbursed for your mileage, but just wanted to add that comment in.
Thank you for adding that. Good information. So there are 3 stages to the program. There's a candidate selection. There's a technical competence, biomed engineering degree or student seeking that degree. They have completed their junior year or will be completing and have 1 year remaining. They also need to be a strong communicator. They need to be self-motivated. This is all about trying to get the information to you, and then you have to be independent to get the work done. Strong emotional intelligence for what's happening around you and those that you're working with. You have to be kind of relocatable within the US and then have a strong learning agility. There's a lot of information coming to you, so you want to be a learner and you want to be adding this information into your toolbox. Basically target kind of highly engaged students that are involved in not only their program, but those that are just, you know, want to be working and want to be involved. The summer program is stage 2 that happens between May and August. It's a full-time. We limit it to 40 hours a week. It's a hybrid schedule, as I mentioned earlier, that you have online information and you have self-led and classroom style, and then you have the field-based portion of those weeks. You shadow a field mentor and the local team around the DFW area. You'll have virtual calls with also the CAS training and education team. You'll have exposure to multiple roles within Medtronic, and then you'll have a final summer presentation before you start back to school in your senior year and then continue on to stage 3. So stage 3 is a part-time. We limit it to 8 hours a week, knowing that you'll have a lot on your plate as you finish your senior year. There's continued case observations and optional online courses to continue your learning throughout the senior year. There's two small projects that are basically during the fall and spring semester. And then you have to routinely meet with your local team and management, or at least stay in contact with them and the field team members. Hope, or we hope, that this process will lead to a full-time placement as an associate CS role upon graduation. That is our goal. That's why we want whoever we interview and with that candidate selection to invest in Medtronic, just like we invest in you. Next slide.
Can I make a comment before we jump?
I would love you to.
Okay, just because we got some comments from NC State, so I figured I would add them in here because you guys might have the same question. So two things. One, for the candidate capabilities, we got a question about whether we prefer a wet versus a dry engineer. A certain area of study that you guys are in right now. We do not. We're really looking at personality, and we're really looking at how you're able to, we like that you have a high IQ, but we need a high EQ as well. Because there's going to be many different personalities that you interact with between the physicians and the lab staff. So we're really looking to really get to know you in this process, especially the interview process and your personality. And then the second comment I was going to make is, really emphasizing that this program is like an intent to hire. So you're going through the summer program full time and then part time your senior year, and we will be flexible and work with you, as your schedule permits. But this program is really meant to be an intent to hire, and hopefully come January, this past cohort will get that pre-offer letter that will secure a job placement, but it will say location to be determined, and it will most likely be within the region that they are in. So I just want to make those two comments and just kind of emphasize that a little bit. So definitely reach out to Juliana to see what the clinical specialist role entails, and if that might be something where you want to start your career.
Thank you, Taylor. So the next steps are just some important dates that are for y'all to know. The resume submission is usually that January 23rd to 28th is our target dates. There'll actually be a handshake posting as well. That'll be, even though the date's to be determined, that'll allow y'all to see it and go through the process of getting your formal resumes in. The candidate selection will happen between, there'll actually be interviews like February 6th through the 10th or so. Then we may go through round 2, depending on how many applicants there are and how competitive everyone is. And then round 3 will happen kind of toward that 3rd week of February. And then by the end of February, early March, we'll have the candidate selection, and they'll be notified by March 4th if they were selected. The cohort starts, or the group that we plan to go through for this second round, that starts May 22nd. So it needs to be started for us to go through the process of getting the information into Medtronic and getting y'all into the system, whoever we select. But the program will start basically at the end of your junior year.
Alexis,
Yes.
just so you know, we actually bumped up our timeline with NC State. So if you wanted to bump this up, you probably could.
Okay.
And you can speak to Ben about that if you wanted to, but I just wanted to let you know we did that last time.
Good to know. Thank you. So next slide. So basically the position overview, it represents Medtronic as a CAS employee, basically providing clinical and technical support during procedures. So even though an intern is never by themselves, they're always accompanied by someone with CAS in the DFW area. There's, you pretty much are learning something that's highly technical, quite fast, and integrating yourself into a program and the lab, which is exciting. There's a lot of information, so you have to kind of be ready for it. You have to drive yourself and be self-motivated. The educational support, we do give some in services to hospital accounts and lab staff along the way. So we do like for the interns to be involved in that. And they also interact with regional new hires. Those do happen throughout the year. And sometimes we have those come in and we do like them to interact with the interns along the way. We also give sales support because we have sales roles and clinical support roles. The ACE intern basically is an extension, we all are, an extension of the sales representative and the products that we represent. So there needs to be strong communication and skills required, because in order to put yourself into trying to find cases, being involved with your timeline with school, allowing yourself to contact the right person at the right time to get to a certain place, you really need to be proactive. We also, as far as the clinical specialists, they kind of go over the entire region. Now, an intern is basically a local team's territory. This territory is mainly in East DFW and no more than a 3-hour radius. I don't think Juliana ever went within an hour or so. It usually worked out. But this is kind of what it would look like as a position after graduation. You'll be involved, you'll become solo, you'll provide educational support, you'll be extension of the team, and you will travel throughout the region, but mainly throughout the DFW area to service the accounts. Next slide. So a day in the life, we wanted to kind of express what it would look like inside the lab and outside the lab for a clinical specialist. You can see here that, you have to show up on time. You have to check supplies, make sure you have what you need. Always ask for help, because there are things that we learn every day that we have to be vocal and communicate about. We also want to communicate to the lab staff and make sure that they are have what they need and think ahead. We observe product preparation with those lab staff members. We also coach and run this console that actually operates our technology. We have to ensure patient safety first and foremost. We have to educate the lab along the way. And so if we see something, we say something. We also work alongside other vendors to optimize patient outcomes. So there will be times where there'll be the pacemaker or defibrillator representatives from Medtronic that are close, that you communicate schedules and things that are happening. And then we also, most importantly, have to troubleshoot things that occur along the way to make sure that there is a safe outcome for the patient no matter what. Outside the lab, driving is one of them. We do put miles on our car. Thankfully, we are reimbursed for that. Some of us go longer distance than others. We also provide educational opportunities to not only the accounts within our physicians, so it might be their office staff or AFib nurses, whatever it may be. There's also regional and corporate training that we have to be involved in. And then there's credentialing, which is quite extensive and can be a lot on your plate at first, but once you get credentialed, each hospital, you have to provide them with certain documentation. So that does take some time. We also have expenses. The interns accrue parking expenses and mileage needs. And there's some things that they need to learn how to use and submit to those that can prove it. There's also stretch assignments. We talked about the fall and spring assignments through the ACE program. And there's also things that as a clinical specialist, we look to say, what can we do? We see the need and we do the need. So those stretch projects provide our team and our accounts opportunity, and hopefully that grows into business is one of the goals. We also have a case schedule to keep up with that is ever changing. And the case schedule, if you don't look ahead and plan, you can be caught off guard, and we want to be on time, show up, and with, and be ready. And also time management, that's a big one. If you find yourself where you are trying to balance, for the intern school, your class schedule, the intern program, the training work, it's a lot. So you have to be able to know how to balance that. For a day in the life of just a regular clinical specialist, it's the same thing. We may not have the class schedule, but we have all of the life things working around what comes to us as well. So it's a great job. I've been doing it for as long as I can remember. And I wouldn't have it any other way, especially in the cardiac side of things. I've kind of stayed with that since I came into industry and haven't left and don't see myself leaving. Next slide. So this is actually a picture of Juliana. She's with her field mentor, her name is Hannah May on the left. And these are just a few of her comments talking about how much she loved the overall time, not only in the summer, but even now as she does her 8 hours a week. She loved the classroom sessions. She loved the information. She loved getting to know her ACE interns that were all over the world, or all over the world, all over the nation. And she really liked the way that she was able to interact with everyone. So you can see that I actually made these two take this picture because she was ending her summer program, and I'm like, please get a selfie of you two. And it turned out cute. The next slide is actually including Juliana, 3 other interns that have been involved in other areas of the country. You can see that they are, whether it be in Florida, Illinois, or Carolinas, they were all loving their role. And actually, this was at Carolinas. I think, isn't Chris in California? Okay, he was in California.
Yep.
And all 4 of them, as you can see, were delighted to be in the program and have thrived in the opportunity. We wouldn't have it any other way. This was our second round to allow these incredible adults to be part of this program, and it has been an amazing experience. We're lucky to have round 2. Okay, so Q&A time for this next slide before we kind of conclude the last section that Taylor will go over.
And Alexis, I want to mention that all 8 interns from the first cohort have decided to move forward with us into their senior year, and we have, felt mutually the same way. And we modeled this program based off of another business unit in Medtronic called CRM, Cardiac Rhythm Management. And they have had 6 years of this program, and they have, I think, 85 to 90% success rate, and they have 36 interns every year. Yep. So we're really hoping to expand within our own cardiac ablation solutions and get more interns, maybe next year, the following year. So it's proven to be successful in other business units. It was our first round was, so we're excited for this. And I've been keeping up with the chat questions, but if anybody has any other ones, let me know.
I don't see anything else right now.
Okay.
Great.
And I'll put my email in the chat as well, to follow up with later. Alexis, we had one.
I'll put mine in as well.
Okay. Yeah, because we'll have to follow up with the NPM. Are there any undergraduate opportunities? So this is for the undergraduates, this opportunity that we're speaking about today. This is for juniors going into their senior year next year. And so it's really meant to be a full-time summer program, like Alexis mentioned, and then part-time in your senior year. And then upon that graduation, so 2 semesters later, you would be a full-time employee. So this is an undergraduate opportunity. I know we had a question in the chat about a master's, and we will talk offline with that individual and with Jess and Alexis ourselves. All right. So with that being said, I'm going to briefly touch on sophomore, freshman college student. No, this is really meant because the program is built just for the full-time summer 12 weeks, and that's really the content that we have. It's based off of our new hire training. So that's the reason that we're going with juniors instead of, sophomore or freshman. But please stay on the lookout as you progress through, because you'll be coming into junior year pretty soon. All right. Okay, so I'm going to touch on our products really briefly and just give you guys a quick rundown of our main product that we support in the EP procedures in the EP lab that Alexis mentioned. So our main product is the Arctic Front Cardiac Cryoablation Catheter. So it's a family of catheters, but really our main one is the cryo balloon. I'm also going to throw in the chat a very helpful website Medtronic Academy. And if you want any more information on these products, I highly recommend going here and seeing some more training, some more educational materials, especially if you're interested in applying. I highly recommend going to this website. So this is the cryo balloon, if you have heard of it. We treat atrial fibrillation. So we treat the electrical side of the heart. There's a plumbing side that does pumping the blood, and then we do the electrical side of things. So when people are in an abnormal heart rhythm, that is what our cryo balloon focuses to treat. It delivers some very cold therapy to freeze and kill the tissue in order to restore normal sinus rhythm. So we have over 16 years of clinical experience, a ton of clinical data, over 1 million procedures performed in over 80 countries. And we have a ton of physicians using this. Oh, sorry, guys, my watch was talking to me. So we have a ton of customers. We've got a ton of experience. We've got a ton of data. And these procedures have gotten so much more efficient, so much more safe. And our main focus in these procedures is to make sure that patient safety, number one, and that the physician is using the product safely, correctly, and optimizing the procedures. So atrial fibrillation, if you aren't aware, is an epidemic. About 1 in 4 adults actually have atrial fibrillation. A lot are unaware that they have it. So some people can be asymptomatic. And the reason that this is so important is because atrial fibrillation, you have a 5 times more likely chance of stroke with atrial fibrillation. So this is the reason that we treat atrial fibrillation and that we want to prevent it. So like I said, 60 million people globally have atrial fibrillation. It's expected to double by 2035. So if you can see that, you would probably recognize that our field force is also going to be growing as well. About 31% of patients with atrial fibrillation have at least one hospitalization per year. Like I said, that kind of is related. Our biggest, risk with atrial fibrillation is that factor of stroke. And so this is just a photo showing kind of our products that we cover in the lab. This is the Arctic Front family of cryoablation. So we have our cryo console here, which actually stores the gas that then is delivered through the tip of the balloon and freezes inside of the heart. So this goes from a vein in your leg, kind of up, very minimally invasive, into the inside of the heart, and it'll freeze. So some tissue in the heart. And then we've got these other pieces that go with it as well. I'm going to skip over this one, but you guys can read about it later because, like I said, it's got a lot of information. I know we're limited on time, so I want to save some time for questions. So again, this console here, we've got a tank inside that will vaporize gas, and it will send it through liquid to gas. It'll send it through the tip of this balloon, and this balloon gets really cold inside, and it'll damage those tissue cells, kill the bad cells, and then normal sinus rhythm. So that is the main product that we support. And then we have a couple other products. And if you have seen Medtronic CAS in the news, or you Google it later, or you look up LinkedIn, you'll see that we have been kind of purchasing different products and really big companies in order to grow this portfolio. So there's only 2 more listed here, but we've actually made 2 huge purchases since then. So our field is growing, our product portfolio is growing. We will be getting into a mapping and navigation space here pretty soon. And that one's pretty cool. It's almost like a video game where you can create an anatomical shell and see kind of where these signals are originating, what's healthy tissue versus not. So we'll be getting into that space shortly as well. And all of these products will all be integrated and all together into that mapping system. So we also have some other catheters like the Diamond Temp system, which delivers radio frequency energy. So our cryo balloon does cold energy. This one actually delivers very hot energy. It uses very high power, very high temperatures in order to create damage as well. And for the sake of time, I'm just going to skip past this and we'll send it out later for you guys to really look into if you're curious. And then we also have a non-invasive mapping system, as well as what I mentioned earlier, which we just purchased, an invasive mapping system. So both of these tools together can really build, like I said, that geometrical shell of the heart and really help us in seeing where signals originate, what tissue is healthy versus what is unhealthy. And it can help guide our strategy of how we're going to take care of that patient and provide them with the best patient outcome and normal sinus rhythm. With that being said, I'm going to save the last few minutes here for question and answering. I know I just briefly touched on some of these products. Alexis, have you been seeing? Yes, you got some stuff in the chat. Perfect. Did I miss anything? Is there any other questions that you guys have after seeing some of the products?
Yes, for sure. I think I hit some of them as well. So if we did not see them, feel free to pop it in the chat again. We'll make sure we try to answer it. I put my email in there as well.
Awesome.
Seems quiet right now.
I know.
I think they've been asking as we've been going.
I know, we answered all the questions. Everybody's informed.
And if you guys have any questions too, feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn, connect with us or our teams, our clinical specialists. If you want to hear from one of them yourself, any of the other interns. I know Juliana was on here, but you can find any of them probably on social media because they love posting.
Yes, they do. Thank you, Dr. Porter, for allowing us to do this. We hope
Thank
that
you.
someone within that's listening today or watching the recording that you're going to send out. I hope that someone just, it calls to your heart. It calls to what you want to do with your life and kind of where you want to go. And it sounds interesting. And we look forward to hearing from you. Please contact us if you have any other questions.
Thank you very much. If there's nobody else asking
right.
questions, I think we're good. So thank you.
Thank
Have an
you.
excellent day.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.